context, we need to understand and appreciate that all kinds of research plans in the beginning are always vague and are very tentative in character. And therefore, design is a very important category in the beginning for the purpose of keeping the research in the right direction. And there are numerous research designs that one can think of, say, experimental research design, cross-sectional or survey design, or a design on secondary analysis, or a case study design, or a prospective research design, or a comparative design. There are, umpteen number of such designs, research designs, that one can think of while one does research in, law or social sciences. Friends, designing a hypothesis in quantitative research is one of the, what should I say, one of the biggest challenges. In fact, I always say that designing a hypothesis is one of the most technical thing that a researcher and the guide confronts. Now, there are a lot of things that you must have read about it, but I'm just trying to explain the hypothesis quickly in maybe a couple of minutes, because I just have another 15 minutes at my disposal. So hypothesis is basically a tentative generalization of a certain idea, tentative generalization, which we generally say as an educated hunch or a guesswork. It is not a wild guesswork. It is educated hunch. So I have a certain idea of a certain phenomenon, and on that basis, I am making generalizations. For example, if somebody asks me as to how much time does it take from in traveling from Lucknow to Delhi, so I have traveled by train, I have traveled by plane, I have traveled by car, and maybe some other things. So I have a tentative idea, though I'm not aware. I traveled from Lucknow to Delhi, say 10 years back. So I'm not sure what kind of change in the road design have taken place. Some new roads have come up and whatever. But I have a general understanding that this much time it shall take if I travel by this. This is an educated hunch or a guesswork. It is not wild guesswork. So there's a difference between, a wild guesswork and an educated guesswork. It is generally based on a prior research, obviously. So somebody has done a research prior. On that basis, for sometimes, for the purpose of varying from that finding, or for the purpose of, verification of that finding, or for the purpose of, what should I say, confirming that particular finding, the research may be done. So it is always based on prior research, and it is always subjected to verification and confirmation, which is done by way of hypothesis testing, as we generally call it, which happens in the last chapter of the research work. It obviously establishes a direction of the study and is another methodology whereby deviation can be avoided. There are a variety of methods of writing a hypothesis on which I will not really talk about right now. I shall move on. The next stage is obviously the survey of literature that I was talking about in the beginning. So I gave the example of, for a legal researcher, this, what is that, Halsbury's Law of England or Halsbury's Law of India. This gives us a, precise design as to how a research is to be designed. Okay. So, I mean, it makes a statement of a certain legal proposition, then supports it with a certain argument, then gives a certain rule on the subject, and then, other materials are provided. This is the way legal research should be done, generally done. So the survey of literature has to be done, wherein the researcher has to classify primary and secondary sources. So we know that, for a legal researcher, the legislative reports or legislations, committee reports, they are, primary materials. And then you have like books, research journals, trend reports, and even judgments on the subject. They are secondary materials in a way. Now, for the purpose of doing this research, there has to be a very systematic study of the subject, what we generally call सिस्टमैटिक इमर्जन इन दी सब्जेक्ट। से कहते हैं ना, उस विषय में व्यक्ति को डूब जाना होता है, अपने आप को डुबो देना उस विषय में। तो दैट इज व्हाट इज जनरली नोन एज systematic immersion in the subject. So say for example, somebody is working on, say, child delinquency. He has to understand not only, the Juvenile Delinquency Act and all that, that 2000 law that was, I believe that is the latest law on the subject. I think that it has been modified or amended in 2015 in some way. So what, it's not just knowing the law, but understanding as to what is the machinery, how the remand homes work, what are the juvenile centers, how do they work, courts, families, locality of the delinquent child. All these things have got to be properly appreciated and understood for the purpose of contextualizing the problem of child delinquency. Once you have systematically immersed yourself in the subject area, then you need some person of experience in that particular area who can give you a certain direction, doability of a certain research. Even if you are sure that you have done enough of work and systematically immersed yourself in the subject, nevertheless, you need to cross-verify your understanding with a certain, person of experience, so that he can tell you the doability or not doability of sustainability of that project. So what happens generally, that when we talk about a certain problem, then we move on to look into the Western journals. Now what happens is that actually detaches ourselves from the real problem. So we figure out how the Western systems have been working on a particular problem, and kind of a solution they have designed, without appreciating the social background in which they have designed that kind of a solution. And then we try to impose Indian models on it. So Indian models are superimposed after doing research in what should I say, in the areas of Western relevance. The research is done in that area, and then like Indian models are superimposed on it, which actually detaches the researches from the ground situation. Now for this purpose, there has to be proper sampling procedure, tools and techniques, etc. Now this is a very common thing, and just by way of I rushed for the purpose of explaining things. Surveys, when we design, they can be either comprehensive or sample based. Generally speaking, we always do. Now in this sample surveys, the universe of study need to be identified wherein you are doing it. Say for example, say domestic violence, where, say in Delhi. Now Delhi is a huge universe. So how do you figure out? So you just try to figure out, okay, so domestic violence in the state of Delhi. Then you try to figure out, you distribute your sample properly. So say for example, you will pick up, say, 10 households from an upcoming society, 10 households from, say, colonies, 10 households from the Juggi Jhopli area, and something like that, say in villages, for example, in Delhi. And then once you have distributed properly, then you can design the tools in terms of your questionnaires, which can be structured or unstructured, or there may be simply observation methods. So the kind of a audience, the kind of a survey you are doing in a given area, that will determine the kind of a tool you shall employ. So say for example, two main types of data collection methods like survey questionnaires can be two types: self-administered and interviewer administered. So self-administered questionnaires are basically when we send some postal questionnaires or online questionnaires nowadays. And interviewer administered questions are face-to-face interviews or telephone surveys, etc. Now, this is just one example. But generally speaking, when we talk about such questionnaires or schedules of questionnaires, then we need to understand and appreciate that if we are confronting or rather trying to do a certain survey, say in an area where we are likely to face educated people, then the schedule questionnaire should be structured. because otherwise, you might, deviate from the main point. In case of, if you are intending to, face an audience which is not educated, then unstructured questionnaire or simply observation method is something that works properly, because your question may not be able to, capture the right idea. So therefore you will have to keep your questionnaire a very open one, not a closed questionnaire. So it has to be open questionnaire. The schedule has to be, has to consist of open questions, right? Secondary data, this is something which is very normal these days, that I sometimes do not collect the data from the ground situation. Sometimes I go for secondary data. For example, NCRB data. So that National Crime Record Bureau publishes certain data, on civil and criminal aspects of the legal system, which is made accessible to the public online. So if you have access to secondary data on the subject, then it saves a lot of your time. So you may use that old data for new ideas. And this is something that we generally know how this data is collected. There are, three major sources of secondary data: surveys, official statistics, and official records. Official records generally are not made available online, but NCRB does publish certain official records. There are certain official statistics that, particular unit, so say for example, a particular police station, a particular court in a certain district may be having, and then obviously, the official records as well. They can always be like, if they are available online, so you can download them, and thereby you save time. But the problem is that this data may have been collected from certain area with a certain perspective, and the researcher may not be able to identify as to what has been the perspective behind collection of this data. Though there are always end notes and other things that you find in the in this data and explain, the context of that data. But generally, researchers find difficulty in, interpreting that data from the perspective in which it has been collected. That is one of the major disadvantages that we face in this. The other problems is that of ethical questions, and researchers generally confront these things, very often. Sometimes they, there are a lot of ethical questions involved in this. So the people involved in the research process, their consent is not obtained, and sometimes questions are put to them without their knowledge, for, as to what kind of questions they are answering and for what reasons. So this generally leads to what we call deceiving the participants, which sometimes may be intentional. Sometimes you may withhold certain information and just pass on only a very limited observation. Just a minute. Hello, sir. Good morning. Okay. Thank you, Vikas bhai. Thank you, Vikas bhai. Okay. So, withholding information with, about the aim and nature of the experiment, or causing participants physical, emotional, and psychological harm. Sometimes, sometimes you ask questions whereby, they recreate the scene in their minds, and they feel offended, emotionally hurt, psychologically harmed. All these things happen. So in professional science bodies, we generally have, their own code of conduct. For example, criminology associations, which, allow these kind of data to be collected and all that. They have their own codes of conduct as to how this data is to be, the question is to be administered, data to be collected and all that. What kind of, consent have to be obtained and all that. After this information has been collected, I'm rushing slightly quickly because my time is almost coming to an end. Please understand and appreciate it that this raw data is a collection of information. And this, unless it is properly processed, it is properly classified, the coding, tabulation, etc. has been done, you cannot draw any conclusion out of it. And for that purpose, you have to have those concise legal formats when you can find the overall view of the findings. You will have to do that tabulations, etc., depending on how you know the kind of relational ideas about that particular data you have in your mind. So you have several ways of representing that data, for example, diagram, pie charts. So there are several graphical ways of presenting that data, tabulating that data, whereby you can draw some conclusions, valid conclusions, right? And obviously this kind of a diagram, pie chart, etc., and how these bar diagrams and all that can be, how a particular data should be presented is obviously to be, you have several online uh, methodologies as well these days. But earlier we used to always consult our seniors that this is the kind of a data we have. So how do we present it? Whether pie chart, diagram, pie chart would be better, or a bar diagram would be better. What kind of a graphical presentation should happen? Nowadays you also have, like a lot of softwares available on the subject, and you feed certain data, and it automatically turns it into those relevant graphical presentations. This is something which is done these days in a very efficient manner through use of these softwares. Obviously then interpretation of that data becomes very easy. Then comes the report writing. Please understand and appreciate it, that the report writing is the end product of the entire research activity that you have done. And it's an account of a long journey on the path of discovering the knowledge. So report writing does not require only skill, but a lot of effort, patience, penetration, and persistence. In fact, you may be doing a lot of things, but when you start writing, you just scratch your head at, oh, from where do I start? Oh, I don't know, this is not proper. So like writing is required, report writing is a very crucial phase of research effort. So this writing process, report writing process, it actually, in the process of writing, you identify further areas, new hypotheses emerge, new suggestions emerge, new observations emerge, and obviously recommendations also emerge from out of it. This obviously intended to disseminate knowledge, but also what should I say, the findings are basically for the purpose of expansion of the horizons of knowledge on a given subject. This is a format, I don't have to explain it, but simply quickly, before I come to my last slide on the subject, another minute or so, not even couple of minutes. So you have this introductory part. So first page you have, in which you provide a title of the your subject, institutional affiliations, name of the researcher, the guide, etc. And then you move on to the contents page, and then the preface, the acknowledgements, abbreviations, list of cases. This is before the major text start. Then it starts the main body, wherein you have introductory chapter, in which you will have to include all these things: statement of the problem, the introduction, the statement of the problem, review of literature, objectives of the study, questionnaires, hypothesis, methodology, in brief, obviously, and then chapterization. And then your other chapters start, in which you explore the subject, explain the subject, and try to arrive at the research findings. And then finally, the chapter called conclusions and suggestions. And it is to be followed by references, which means bibliography, which has obviously to be very annotated, format of the bibliography, in which you properly classify all the sources like books, journals, articles, list of instruments, so and so forth. So this is the format of the report writing generally. I have gone through it within 1 minute. It requires a lot of understanding. And then obviously the footnoting is another area, wherein in India for legal writing we have two major methodologies of and generally ILI standards, which follows Blue Book standards, is the normal methodology that we follow in footnoting in India's legal writings particularly. But in a lot of several law schools we find OSCOLA is also used for footnoting process. These are my concluding observations, friends, which I finish in 1 minute. I have gone very fast in the last few slides. I suspect that this might have led to obfuscation of the subject, but nevertheless, I just wanted to, make it the whole subject presented before you. Please understand and appreciate it that in kind of, that research methodology that we follow, not one single research methodology is followed at a given point of time. Your research methodology is always a combination of this or that type of research methodology. So it's not only empirical, but doctrinal as well. It's not only quantitative, but qualitative as well. So all kinds of research methodologies actually apply at the same time in one single research project. For example, it could be exploratory. Then it could, refer to a problem. This problem might lead to a policy formulation, which might lead to law reform. So all these things, maybe one single research project may involve exploratory, design and the problem-based research and the policy reform and the law reform process, etc., etc. The ultimate purpose of all kinds of research methodologies is to arrive at some kind of reasonable conclusions, develop a better understanding of a phenomenon. Sometimes a new theory emerges, and sometimes a new solution emerges. And obviously, learning goes on. Friends, this is all from my side. I hope I have been able to make a few points for the purpose of, guiding you in your further research endeavors. I stop here, and I would look ahead for questions from your side, which I may attempt to answer. I have taken 5 minutes extra, but this generally happens when you plan a topic like this. Sometimes you overshoot your time. Thank you so much once again for inviting me. Over to you, Dr. Shruti Sharma.
Thank you, sir. This was indeed a very enriching and engrossing session. I am sure there would have been a lot of questions. If not posted, I would request if you can gradually raise your hand and we can allow you, because sir has a paucity of time. So if you can come up quickly with questions. One we have, I don't know, sir, if you want to address. This is by some advocate, I guess, where he is quoting you with the perspective what you are stating herein, that lawyers and judges are experts in qualitative research. Can we say that the judgments of courts are a kind of research, as they are identifying the problems and questions and are proving in their judgments by going through a lot of facts and legal materials present for that purpose? Your expert comments he is requesting for.
I cannot agree more than on this. Absolutely, you are right. Every advocate, every judge, what is he doing? He's actually researching all the time. The problem is there before him. For the purpose of finding a solution, he's now researching. So he is coming up with a tentative, proposition of the law, then would, support it with a certain and certain persuasive arguments in a case, hierarchize it. So this is the problem. This is the legal proposition. This is supported by this case law. So what is he doing? He's doing research all the time. So in fact, the lawyers and judges are the researchers who are always engaged in research. Unfortunately, we always wonder that only teachers do research. No, lawyers and judges do more research than teachers, I tell you. Absolutely agree with you, my friend.
Sir, I put up this question because
Yes,
nowadays there are so many judgments we are finding passed by Honorable Supreme Courts and Honorable High Courts. In their judgments, they are writing like a research paper. They are identifying the problems. They are giving the footnotes even in their judgments. That is why I put up this question to you and for your expert comments.
I perfectly agree with you. I recall this was, I think, this Puttaswamy case.
Sir.
So I was just reading that case, old judgment, 2015 judgment it was. Justice Chandrachud, if you read that opinion of Justice Chandrachud, it is presented in the form of a research paper.
Yes.
So he provides, the contents first.
Yeah.
That this is what I am doing in my,
this judgment. Yeah.
So contents are provided first. So, it is more or less presented in the form of a research effort. And, this started with Justice Nariman. Justice Nariman, who's retired now, of course. I'm forgetting his first name. Retired 2 years back. So he would also present his, judgments in a very research format. But, this is a new methodology they have started following. Otherwise, and all the judges do not follow this methodology.
Not all the judges, sir. Yes,
not all the judges follow this methodology. Just a couple of judges here and there. I think Justice, what is his name? Justice Khanna. Sanjeev Khanna.
Justice Khanna. Yes, sir.
Sanjeev Khanna also is, habitual in writing his judgments in the same format, like Justice Chandrachud and all.
Mostly Justice Chandrachud is following, sir.
Exactly. So, just one or two such examples. But otherwise, judges follow that traditional pattern of writing a judgment in which they will introduce the subject and then will present the argument of the other side, and then will move on to analyze them. And then towards the end, they would say decided accordingly. So you keep on just figuring out, how do you find the ratio of the subject and a lot of other things. But then there are judges who will summarize their arguments and give the opinion towards the end of the judgment. So there are all kinds of judgment that we come across, right? So we will have to appreciate and understand that, well, every judgment is the reflection of the personality of a certain judge. Right? So this happens. Yes,
so then by going through this logic, can we say the legal opinions offered by the lawyers can be categorized in the research paper, because they are also identifying the legal issues, and on that legal issue they are referring the so many legal materials available, and the judgments also they are quoting, and they are giving the opinion, whether they are giving the opinion or in the affirmative or negative of the legal issues which has been posed before them. Can we
I'm
say
appreciating your problem, sir. I'm appreciating your issue. You see what happens when a particular case is argued before a court of law. You have opposite opinions. Sometimes an opinion is quoted but not supported by the judge. When I write a research paper, I would say, well, Advocate Nambiar said this in Gopalan's case, but the majority judges ignored this argument. So you may be looking back at that argument is better than the one that was supported by the majority judges. This is what happens in Maneka Gandhi's case. That what was argued by Advocate Nambiar was not look at the argument of Justice Patanjali Shastri, the way he simply brushes under the carpet the argument raised by Advocate Nambiar, and look at the way in Maneka Gandhi's case Justice Bhagwati would quote whole of the arguments of Advocate Nambiar. These things do happen. Judges also later on would say, oh, that argument was better, but we have not looked at that at that point of time. This appears to be a better argument today. So this happens. The pieces of research, every advocate in raising a particular argument, supporting it by way of a certain legal materials is always a research piece. It's a piece of research, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
I think questions are there are simple questions. I think we can address. Sir has some other engagement as well that was communicated to us prior. So
there is a question that I'm receiving. The difference between just a minute. The question has disappeared. The question is, what is the difference between research gap and statement of a problem? See, you introduce a particular subject and then you identify the research problem, which means what has prompted you to do the research, right? Research gap may be an inducing factor, but not the idea called statement of the problem. It is an inducing factor. So what do? First, you make a statement of the research problem, then go on to do the review of literature, and then say that this research is not done here. That's why I'm going back to my statement of the problem. You appreciate the point? One is a, the reason. The other is a product. So instead of the problem is the product, and the gap, research gap is a reason, which has prompted you to the research. So it is actually a similar phenomenon though, but presented differently. I agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
There are other small questions. I have some questions. Just give me a minute, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Can we use different methods and samples in our research? Different methods. Obviously, every research involves variety of methods. No research uses exclusively this or that type of a methodology. As I was trying to conclude towards the end, wherein I was not, not able to find enough of time to explain all that. So we do use different methods in our research process. And samples in our research, samples I didn't understand, but sample is something which obviously we define what kind of sample we are looking at, and from where, which university we are collecting it, how are we going to analyze it. So it's a different question altogether. Another question, we quote judgments in our research paper, it shall be considered as plagiarism? No, not at all. You see, plagiarism is a very controversial issue. I cannot really, because this is not a lecture on plagiarism, but just I'll take 30 seconds to explain it. Every kind of an idea that generates from my mind, emerges from a certain reading that I do. So every reading, generates a new thinking in my mind process. Now, what happens is that I think it is in some copyright rules or something, wherein you can quote, those 100 words at a time. So some of those things are there. So long as you are quoting a judgment, you cannot use paragraph after paragraphs. It has to be in limited quantity, 100 words, not more than 100 words at a time, as the copyright rules would provide us. And then you acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge it, the plagiarism softwares that are available, they always have an option to exclude those copied things. So those exclusions you can always provide in your software when you you check those plagiarism check that you do. So this is not plagiarism. Quoting judgments in your supporting your research argument is not a plagiarism as such. But that's why we say similarity index. So 10% is something that your similarity index should not go beyond 10%. This is what we generally say. So the 2018 regulation of UGC on the subject gives you enough of guidelines as to how much you can quote, and then you have copyright rules as well, which provide for 100 words at a time you can quote and all that. Plagiarism, okay, yes. Okay. I hope there are not many questions.
No other questions, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Thank
we
you.
can hear you day long. I thought you are having a short of time, so I was, discouraging questions. But we all can sit here and take session throughout the day, sir.
No, I appreciate, but every one of you will be having its own, own issues. So if there are any questions, it's okay. Or else I can be...
I think we are done with the questions. I would appreciate if you can still write, and we will request sir to write you back, and we can be a via medium. So you can post your questions in as and when you are having difficulty.
So Dr. Shruti, what I'm doing is that in the this message box,
yes,
I am writing my...
Thank you so very much, sir.
Email. So you can shoot your questions to my email. I'll certainly answer them.
Thank you so much.
I hope you are getting it. amarpalsingh@iq.ac.in.
Yes, sir. We got it. Thank you so much, sir. I on behalf of the department is obliged for your benevolent presence and words of wisdom that you have given. I'm sure it would have not been only only encouraging to the students who are research scholars and are pushed towards writing, but also people like me who had a comma or to research work, and before it comes to a full stop, we should again, up the scale, and we should start writing before it gets too late. And so I think it was, and one thing that I would really want to share with you, sir, your extensive experience was reflected throughout your session. So the traces we could mark that experience does matter heavenly. So thank you so very much, sir. And we are all eager to hear you more, maybe next time, next platform. Thank you so
So
very much, sir.
if this session is over, I can leave.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much once again for a very
Obliged, sir.
listening. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, ma'am.
Um, I think participants can stay back, and I would request our director, sir, to address the participants. If he has already logged in, director, sir. Okay. Meanwhile, till the time he joins us, I would request our core committee of this FDP, all those who have been working day and night, working hard to make this convenient for all of us who are here, me, you. I would want all of you to please come forward, at least address your audiences a line or two. I would request Kaushlin, sir, if he is here. Please, sir.
Thanks, ma'am. I, Dr. Kaushlensi, on the behalf of Institute of Legal Studies SRMU and the organizing committee, want to pass my warm thanks to all the audience for their significant presence in the whole FDP. And especially, I want to thank our guest and speaker who made this event a great success. Though we went through some technical glitches, but we finally made this happen. And I especially want to thanks Professor Dr. Amarpal Singh sir, whom I especially and personally feel that I have some special connection and bonding from my early days of PhD research in RML and NLU. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for giving us your precious time in your busy schedule. It really means a lot to us. And you have surely added the charm to this event. Thank you, sir, and thank you all. Thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushlin. Um, I would now request Manish sir to please come, introduce yourself, and then please say line or two at least. Over to you, sir. Yes, sir. You are indeed. Please. Okay. Thank you, Manisha. And the best thing that we all would want to were wanting to listen that more of such FDPs will come. Okay. I would now request Dr. Devendra to join us and give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. A very good morning to our distinguished chief guest,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Amarpal Singh, sir, director, sir, all the participants, and my dear colleagues. I'm indeed very happy to be present amongst you for this valedictory session of Faculty Development Program. This FDP is an effort to provide a platform to enrich us and sharpen our skills through the experiences of our eminent speakers during all the 6 days, with deep sense of honor on behalf of Institute of Legal Studies. Our profound gratitude to Professor Dr. Amarpal Singh, sir. Though he is not here, he has left the session because of his other commitments. So, for delivering his precious time and sharing his valuable knowledge on such an important topic. His impactful presence has definitely added glory to the event and has inspired all of us to never stop learning and growing in life. Our deep vote of appreciation to Professor Dr. Sanjay Singh, sir, Vice Chancellor Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, for sparing his valuable time on the inaugural session of this program, despite the busy schedule and enlightening us with the words of wisdom. I also sincerely thank all the resource persons for sharing their experiences and knowledge on various subject matter despite of their hectic schedule. I'm thankful to all of them. I'm grateful to all the participants who have participated in the event with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm. We hope you all had a good time to learn and grow. I also thank to Vice Chancellor Sri Ram Swaroop Memorial University, Professor D.K. Sharma sir, for supporting our initiatives and for pushing us to better. I express my sincere thanks to Director ILS, Professor Dr. Rohit P. Shabran sir, for providing his kind supervision and instrumental support throughout the event. At last, I conclude by saying that each and every effort of organizing committee, core team, and our faculty members is deeply acknowledged and appreciated. This would have not been possible without all of you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Devin sir. And since director sir, I can see him here. We can.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
I can request. And before I do this, please, I request all the participants to switch on the cameras for a group photo here because director sir is also here. I would request everyone to switch on the cameras. We can capture Manish sir, Kaushlen sir, Devin sir is already there. All the participants, these could, if you are not in a situation that you cannot switch on, I humbly request, please switch on your cameras.
इसको जरा बड़ा करो.
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha. Pradeep sir, you have been asking, please switch on your camera. Thank you. Manish sir, can we quickly take the photos? And then I would. Okay. I would request sir to please. Director sir?
Shruti ma'am, I'm audible?
Yes.
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you. Ji sir, please continue.
Okay, okay. Good morning to all of you. Today, after the completion of this faculty development program, which is scheduled from 10 July to 15 July, 1 week FDP program, online program on the topic that is changing controls of legal education and teaching pedagogy. This had the provoking guided us to deliberate to involving landscape of legal education to develop into the involving for that legal education and teaching methods. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere to all those who have contributed to success of this.
Yes, sir.
Because of that, there are some from there too. I like to express my deepest in the speakers area of the who has shared their experience, your relations, and this. So your passion of for teaching and dedication to nurturing the future legal minds have inspired us all. Valuable contributions. Because of that, first of all, I would like to very thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Sanjay Singh Sir, that because of that, basically his belongs to sociological aspect, but given more contribution and suggestions, and there are very knowledgeable uh, session of sir. So thank you, sir, to connect with us and esteemed position of this valuable time from your side. And the second is that Professor Amrapal Singh sir, professor in the Best University, has presently has had debated that the research, especially research problem. And third, my esteemed speaker is that Dr. Sayyid Sadiq Hussain Abdi sir. So there are different caption have been covered from his side. That is challenges before legal education in India.
And a very wonderful session of you, sir. So one another our esteemed speaker, that Dr. Abhishek Tiwari sir, associate professor in Lucknow University, that basically his main theme or topic is basically to impact on ICT, use of ICT in legal education, information and communication technology, ICT. So basically, NAC grading or online education system. So it is basically to save the zero session from any type of problem in education system. So next, our esteemed speaker is that Dr. Preeti Singh from Benin University has given very much fruitful for discussion of that person. And the next internal speaker, esteemed speaker, is that Dr. P.C. Mishra sir, Associate Professor of SRMU in Legal Studies. That he has conveyed to how to research ethics, how to learn research ethics. And the next from DAB College, PG College, Dehradun, is that Apur Mavi. So he's also contribute to very good approach the given topic. And the next my esteemed speaker is that Preeti Bala Mishra. Ma'am, basically his her purely his her big mental health and accelerating is basically to connect all the subjects, whether it is science or arts.
All the that Dr. Asutosh College. She is also given more valuable contribution to this FDP program. So first of all, that they are my our FDP esteemed speakers. I'm very thankful to him and her from the Institute of Legal Studies, SRMU, University, Barabanki. So I'd like to express my heartfelt thanks to basically organizing committee for their exceptional efforts in putting together this FDP. Their meticulous planning and attention to detail ensured that this online FDP ran smoothly and efficiently. In this regard, thus I am basically the convener of FDP program, Mr. Ajay Pratap Singh and Manish Pratap Singh, Dr. Shashank Sekhar sir, Dr. Kaushlin sir, Dr. Deven sir, and the others. So in this regard, all the organizing committee has given more efficiency and more hard working for that purpose. So I'd like to also to acknowledge the presence of all the participants here today or before that 6-day participant. Your active participation and engagement have made the FDP vibrant and interactive. The exchange of ideas and perspective among the participants has further enriched the learning experience for all of us. So, in this regard, I want to share with all of you that in every year I want to organize this type of faculty development program in every year. So, thank you to all of you, and I wish you every success in your future endeavors. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Once
Am I
again,
audible? Okay,
Yes.
sir, please. Devin, sir, please.
Once again, thank you, sir, for providing support and supporting us. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. That we have completed the wonderful FDP under the able guidance of Director, sir.
With this, I think we think we come to an end to the FDP, and I leave on the note that we have more such events. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have requested on the chat box also. I request again, please do fill your feedback forms. That will be shared shortly. Thank you.